was little, most of the women didn't drive cars in my neighborhood. The guys had trucks. My dad always had a truck. And he hauled logs or wood or lumber or whatever. You know, it was part of his job because he worked for a lumber company for a while. Then he worked on the farm, and then he went to West Virginia and worked in the coal mines for years.
One of my uncles, you know, one of Mom's brothers, he retired from being a coal miner in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not an easy job, but I mean, it's a lot safer job now, but it's still a really hard job.
Mm-hmm.
They actually get paid a decent amount, especially because, you know, nowadays everyone goes to college and they want to go work in an office. Not a lot of people are left who want to go work in the coal mine.
Well, it was a risky business, you know. It was like Dad said, you know, he never, you know, dwelled on it much, but he said he'd go back from Virginia, our house, to West Virginia. He went around, I was trying to think, Welch and War, West Virginia, and there's another one. But anyway, he never knew when he went back to work if, you know, if they'd have an accident in the mines, and, you know, because a lot of times men didn't come home no more.
No.
And he was lucky a few times they did have cave-ins back in the mines, but he wasn't back as far as some of the guys were. But once all of those rocks come in and fill up that space in there, you're doomed. There's no way, because the air is completely shut off.
Yeah.
And he said anybody that gets out is really very lucky. But it was one of the better paying jobs at the time, so, you know, if you got a family, you do what you gotta do.
Well, that's why my uncle did it, yeah, because he ended up getting like a 3-4 bedroom house on 1 acre. It's kind of like out in the woods. It wasn't too far out, but it was in the middle of Pennsylvania. It's all woods.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he had enough money to where his wife didn't have to work, and they could have a car, and he got, like, you know, his kids' cars when they were 16. They could, you know, be like a middle-class America.
Yeah, that's what Dad did. Dad would go back to work Sunday afternoon. Mom would make an early lunch, and there was always one other guy, and sometimes there was another one. They'd drive back to West Virginia. They'd leave about midday on Sunday, so they could get there and get some rest and be up in the morning. And they came home after they finished their day's work on Friday. They would start back home, so it just was there for overnight. But that's what the one job he had. He made more money than, you know, as a carpenter he made pretty good money, but you don't always get work. At the mines you could work all the time.
Yeah.
And it is risky. Because he said every day, and they had these tracks that went through from the outside to go back to where the end of where they're working, and they hauled the coal out like that, and the guys would ride those little trolleys in and out coming from work too. But he said you never knew when you were going back there, if this was your day, that you might not see daylight again.
That is a tough day.
Mm-hmm. But he said when they came out, they'd been in there working and sweating for their 8-10 hours. They come out, they all look like black people. And he said sometimes you could just scrub and scrub and scrub, and you still get out there. You think it's clean, and you go out and sit down and you look, and you still got coal dust on you.
I believe it.
And he said it's awful. You get in your ears or in your nostrils, and you sneeze, it comes out like you.
And that's how they got like black lung. Now they all, like, you know, for like the last 30 years or so, they have to wear respirators.
Mm-hmm.
But my uncle, he still has some health issues. Because it's always going to be something gets in.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad had breathing problems. He was never diagnosed with black lung, but Dad said unless you're half dead, they don't.
Yeah.
They just say, well, you just need to.
You got coal miner lung.
Mm-hmm.
Get back to work.
The only thing you can do for it is get outside as much as you can and breathe deep. If you have mucus or feel like you need to cough and sneeze and get it out of you. Drink lots of fluids, they tell them, and eat healthy.
That's what they say for everything nowadays. Drink fluids and eat healthy.
Yeah. But he said it was so awful though, because every day when they would all get to the mine entrance and get in this little trolley thing that would take them down underground, they would greet each other in the morning, and when they got out of the thing to go to work, they would always say to each other, hopefully we'll all meet here in a few hours and go back out again. Because a lot of times he said they would be short one or two guys. The slate would fall on them, or they had been in there too long and the lungs would collapse, or just something happened.
They had a lot of like fires and explosions too, I bet.
A lot of explosions. And he said that when, the only way you have in is that one little track with the trolley went through. There wasn't one to come and go. They spaced it where if one was coming down, the other one on that end had to stay put until you got there.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't, if you were on your way in, there was no way for anybody to tell you need to go back, because they had no communications equipment. When you got there and there was too much rumble in the back where they were working, they're not going back in there no more, but they can't get out either because those trolleys wouldn't haul more than 5 or 6 men at a time. And so there was the hard thing about seeing who goes first, who would stay. Some of the guys would absolutely panic, and they didn't care what you said, or they're going to be one of the first ones out, and that would cause a problem. But a lot of them had what they call black lung from working in the mines, and that plus stress that they may be going to be crushed to death, they have to get them out first, and just cause havoc. And nobody could come in until that cart left and went out and got out of the way, because it was a one track.
Sounds like a mess.
It was horrible. He said every day when coal miners went, and probably still is, but not as bad because they had no modern stuff. But he said you never knew when you got on that car to go in if that's the last sunshine you're going to see for the rest of your life or not. And but I know when Sunday night when he would go back, he'd always kiss us all goodbye, and he'd say, Lord willing, I'll see you the weekend. But he knew we all knew there's a chance, he wouldn't be home no more.
Yeah.
But it was the only decent paying job that, they had.
Like I know in China they do a lot of coal mining and stuff like that. In China they don't have the same, safety that they have in America now. So that's how it is over there right now. And they have like, I don't even know the number, but hundreds upon hundreds of deaths a year. Like you said, every day someone might not come back. It's pretty normal.
Yeah.
But there too, there's so many people, and like that's the only job. A lot of people are happy to have that job.
Well, my dad was happy, and there was 2 other guys that used to ride back and forth with him.
It makes you think of guys nowadays who they've got families, and some of them don't even have jobs. And you're like, hey, you just got to go work at the Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't talk about it a lot, the risk, but it was always on everybody's mind. Like when my mom would kiss Dad goodbye and he'd start to leave, tears start running down her face because she didn't know if she'd ever see him again or not, because there was no guarantee that they wouldn't have a cave-in, and once all that coal and rock comes down, it's a mask of huge boulders that takes forever for them to clear the way. And you have to be real careful about what you do, because disturbing the structure of all those rocks too much, you could cause more collapse than so just further hinder you getting to them. So everything was very carefully thought out, or they thought they were doing the best thing. And they were good. They rescued, I'd say, probably 90% of the people. They get them out.
It's gonna be cold tonight.
Mm-hmm. The schoolhouse shuffle, scuffle.
Or a lunchroom hate crime. Tonight, a local dad claiming classmates are targeting his son. Plus, families ordered out of their homes ahead of chilly temperatures. The safety concerns here.